Did you know that the term Mad Minute does not refer to a bunch of folks in a field on a Saturday afternoon dumping mag after mag of rounds into piles of dirt?
All right, let's get this race day started.
No, the term Mad Minute actually comes from a British term from the Hythe School of Musketry before World War I. And the goal was to hit a minimum of 15 hits on a 12-inch round target at 300 yards in under 1 minute using something like a Lee-Enfield, like this one from World War II right here. Fed by stripper clips of 303 Brit. Line it up. Load in an internal box mag that holds 10 rounds. Close it, and the clip kind of does a slight M1 Grand ping. 50 yards, 5 rounds. Try that middle black target. I have to aim with the 500, I guess, meter sight here. Very rudimentary iron sights, almost no adjustability. Aim about 2 feet above the target. Let's see how many we hit. There you go, 5 for 5. I think the mag spring in there is getting a little weak, but what can you say? World War II. Hey guys, thanks for tuning in. So a little bit of history on the table here in front of you. This is a Lee-Enfield. Now it's a number 4 Mark 1 made in 1944 by the Maltby factory. I picked this up 2 years ago at a gun show, and I don't think they knew what they had because I paid well below what it was worth, even at the time before prices went crazy. So I grabbed it as soon as I saw it, because it is a World War II rifle. And what's fascinating is made in 1944. What happened in 1944? About June time, right around there, D-Day happened. So they were pumping these out left and right, and this was very crudely put together. This series, the Mark 1 actually is very kind of, I wouldn't say Mosin-esque in terms of how they put it together, but in terms of any of these Western nations, this is definitely one of the more thrown together pieces here. You have a very simple flip-up sight here. I mean, very crude. And you also have a 500 meter and a 300 meter setting there with a peephole and a not really much adjustable front sight here, but it seems to be pretty on. You just have to kind of hold the target like 1 to 2 feet above the paper, depending where you are. If you're within like the 300 meters or like 300 yards, somewhere around there, which I usually shoot within 100 yards or so, but very accurate rifle. Now what's cool about this is also the fact that because it's all just thrown together, pumping these out, get them to the troops. Last time I was in London, actually, I went to the Winston Churchill Bunker Museum tour. And it's one of those things you sign up for. There's not too many people who can go down there. So I signed up for one of the private tours, walked through there, and it was just fascinating because they had these right here, these exact ones, like I think they were all number 4 Mark 1s, all lined up on racks. But basically, Winston Churchill knew, even up till 1944, he was worried Germans were invade, and they had actually, when the war ended, they had left everything. There's even like sugar cubes left on plates next to cups of coffee. They just closed the gate on that bunker, closed the door, never looked back until the museum opened up. But this shoots really well, very accurate. You have a 10-round box magazine on the bottom right here. It is detachable, like so. They didn't really think of it at the time, or at least they didn't want to think of it in terms of handing out a bunch of magazines, but it is kind of interesting to have a bolt action from this time period that had the magazines for it. And this predates back to World War I even, but I don't believe they issued magazines like they do today. I think they issued the rifle with 1 internal box mag, and then all of your rounds on clips. And you'll load it back in just like so. It's kind of interesting that that was kind of the box magazine, because this design is made well before World War II. There's different versions of this. This is just kind of like one of the later versions as semi-automatics kind of became more prevalent. Loads by 5-round strip clips right here. Down, up, down, up, down. And it just makes it so they stay in better and they're gonna load much easier. They won't get bunched up as much. Stripper clips though are kind of finicky, but still work pretty well. Also have an original World War II canvas sling that I picked up. Still find this stuff. Enfield's one of the more affordable middle surplus rifles anyways, and they usually beat up like this because they've been thrown through the ringer. One of the things I don't like is the fact that the sights are that 300, 500 because you'd have to hold up. I would have rather seen like 100 meters and 300 meters. But these are designed for marksmen, in essence, really. I think with some of how the World War II battlefield was, I would have adjusted this or at least given you a chance. Some of these other versions of the Enfield that allow you to have a much better sighting, but these again were these last ditch kind of rifles. So you saw, you can definitely hit targets at 50 yards, you can push it out farther, range it, especially if you push it out to 300, which is what this is kind of set to. But I want to do a quick accuracy grouping of these rounds. So I figure 25 yards on that silhouette white cardboard target will do good. I have two types of rounds to test out. We have 174 grain 303 Brit. And in this pocket over here, we have 180 grain soft jacket. So a little bit different with that tip right there, 180 grain. And in case you're wondering, these are the GS Extreme Gen 2 by Axel. I've been wearing them all day. Wireless, noise cancellating, great for the range, especially if you want to wear a hat, you don't have to worry about the earmuffs. I'll put a link down below for you guys. So let's do 3 rounds, 174 grain on the left at 25 yards, kind of like the 50. I'll probably have to aim, I don't know, a foot or two above. Let's start with 2 feet, see where we're hitting. 2 feet should be right in the middle. And we'll do kind of like the left side of the target. All right, 3 rounds, let's go. Oh yeah, right below the shoulder at about a foot high. So we'll go down a little. There you go. Looks like all 3 made it right there. All right, 180 grain soft point. Oh, that looked pretty smooth. Those points on the FMJs like to snag a little bit on the ramp. All right, right side. Let's see where we got to aim on this one. Oh, that's even closer though. That's like only about 6 inches above that right shoulder, or the left shoulder, I guess. There you go. Let's take a look. So at just 25 yards, with 174 grain, aiming about a foot or so above the target. And then over here, 180 grain, which I did expect a little heavier, should hit a little bit nicer. Soft point there, about 6 inches above the target. Get you right there. Not too bad, just a little fun accuracy testing, get you an idea. Spike bayonet, matches the time period. This is a number 4 Mark II with the proper stamps on there. This actually has one of the Brits metal sheaths right here. Has a hook of some type, very different from what the US would have used at the time. Out of rounds, what do? Well, luckily, they make a bayonet that goes right on the end. Twist and push and lock. This is a number 4 Mark II bayonet with a metal sheath. So you're ready for anything. And then to take it off, you simply push this button, pivot the other way, slide off, and store. It's not really a knife or anything, it's definitely a spiked bayonet. This was all caked in cosmoline or whatever the storage grease is at the time, so I had to go and remove all of that and boil that away, clean it up, get it nice and oiled so it lasts forever, take care of it. Same with this. This actually was all caked in storage. That's another thing. Sitting on that table at the gun show when I picked this up, just caked in whatever the cosmoline or storage grease they used at the time. These, of course, being a Lee-Enfield, have a very unique cocking method for the bolt action. When you pull back, usually you're cocking the hammer as you pull back, or the bolt rather, you actually have this spring tension right here, you can kind of see. So it's a totally different feel. Now the Brits claim this is very fast, and that's the whole Mad Minute thing, right? And when you do cock this, you can kind of, it actually helps. They claim you slap it up and it flies open and you just push it and you're ready to go. You really don't have to do much at all. So it is a very, very fast bolt action, and 10 rounds is very nice for the time period, beating out a lot of the bolt actions from this time period, even up to World War II. Loads off the stripper clips, and the last one you put in, if you put in first stripper clip in, very easy. It's not like a Mosin where it's kind of stuck and you have to do some filing. These are very nicely made. You can see that there, a little bit of a ping. So it's designed to load fast, shoot fast, and a lot of times you see the Brits actually back then were trained to even go and push and just use your middle finger or your ring finger, or you can get your pointer down there, but just to go and just almost rapid fire volley this thing, 10 rounds. Just a fascinating piece of history. Trigger, I hate to dry fire this, but I wanted to show you real quick. Trigger, very crude, kind of a hooked trigger, even more exaggerated than your traditional hook trigger you see on any modern rifle on there. Little bit of grooves on the front there to make sure you have something to grip. But let's fire it together. Wiggly, you can kind of see there a little bit of slop. And you can't test the reset. I mean, you probably could, but your hand's kind of in the way of that bolt coming back. It's a mil-spec trigger, but as far as that goes, I mean, it's way better than like a Mosin trigger. And that bolt is just so smooth. Safety on this side here. Swivels back and forth. If you lock it, you can't do anything. Go forward, you're ready to go. So you could load around and then put it on safe, carry it around if you wanted to do that. Stock itself, obviously beat up. I'm not going to do anything to it whatsoever. In fact, every time I shoot this, it sweats out more of that grease. I can even feel it now. It's just greasy. But I mean, that's just part of the history. I mean, it's in great shape, very minimal rust, definitely beat up, well used, like a lot of the Enfields out there. And it's just a great depiction of the time period. There is in here, if I can get this carefully open. Let's see if it'll open. When I first got it, it was like just caught tight in there. There we go. This is actually a little storage compartment, but there's no love letters or dollar bills in there or pounds or whatever it was back then. Just nothing, but it's a little storage compartment for oil or whatever you want to put in there, but it's very hard to open and close as well. Little brass butt plate there. Not the most comfortable, but a low recoil round. I mean, it's very similar to like maybe the US like 308, 303 Brit. Sling, very nice. I'm gonna keep that on there. Looks great. Not a very long rifle either. I like how it's kind of short for what it is. It's a little heavy, I will say that. Definitely one of the heavy military rifles back then, but it is bolt action, overbuilt. I mean, all of this up here is really where the weight's at. It's very heavy right here. The whole receiver and the action is just overbuilt. Very strong. Now to take this bolt out real quick, there's a button down here actually, a little bit of ledges on there. Just gonna push that down, push this piece up on the bolt face here, and then it comes right out. You can kind of see it's very, very clean, nice and well oiled actually, just recently. Slide this back down, push it in just a little bit. That we can load it back up. Very simple. I'm gonna do a full cleaning video on this. It is time to get her cleaned and not just oiled, because I cleaned it once when I got a lot of the grease out. I had to take it apart, and there's all these little screws you can take apart, take the bands off, you know, take the swivels out and clean out all that gunk, especially if you pick one of these up, you know they're gonna be messy. So just clean it all out. But in terms of maintenance, I'm gonna do a full cleaning, get the barrel swabbed out, get the receiver cleaned up, magazine cleaned up. Maybe I can help with this spring, because one of the things I'm seeing is this particular magazine here. I think the spring is a little weak, especially if you load 10 rounds in there. And honestly, it's almost like a single spring. You can see how it dives down. So it has kind of a follower. It's like you need those anti-tilt Magpul followers. But you can kind of see how it dives down a little bit in there, and that kind of hurts with feeding sometimes. And I think I'm gonna clean it. I might clean it out a little bit, but there's not a whole lot you can do with that. Would have been cool if they did issue spare mags though. I feel like that would have been the way to go. A bunch of 10 rounders just ready to go. But that was a little bit ahead of its time for this one. So that's about it, guys. That's about wraps it up on my Lee-Enfield. Fascinating piece of history, at least in my eyes. I think it's just, this is not just some post-war thrown together Enfield you see, or even like before World War II, which a lot of those were used in like World War I. The SMLE is a big one in a lot of Call of Duty and all those games. I mean, this is just a huge part of especially British history, and there were just a ton of these made. I mean, upper 200,000s by Maltby alone. So it's just a fascinating piece of history. If you see one of these out there, ammunition is getting a little bit scarce. It's over $1 a round now, that 303 Brit. But it used to be a lot less. It used to be closer to like what 30-30 used to be, or what 308 used to be. So hopefully someday we can get that down. There's a ton of manufacturers still making 303 Brit. This is a very popular rifle, adopted by many nations, and I definitely think it's a great little platform if you can get used to holding about 2 feet above your target if you're at like within 100-yard range. So, well, thanks so much for watching, guys. If you have any questions about this rifle or the Enfield, or if you want to see other Enfields on here, I have been looking at the Jungle, little Jungle carbine. I think that's kind of a neat one, but it's not really a World War II from what I can tell. It's more like late 40s into 50s. But if you have any questions at all about this rifle, hit them down in the comments below. I'll be happy to answer them. As always, subscribe to the channel, hit that thumbs up, really helps me out. Head over to Instagram, follow me there, like us on Facebook for all the latest and greatest deals on the internet. And we'll see you guys in the next review. So cool.